Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith and we are going to dive straight into part number 2 of the Etherfields playthrough for this Kickstarter preview. Now where we left off in the last video is we had just uncovered the options here inside of our vehicle. If we decide to head off, we've got two options over here. We're going to talk about those in a second because I threw that question back to the community to find out which of the two was the most popular choice. But before we talk about that, I want to go over a couple quick corrections and just FYIs from the prior video. One thing to make perfectly clear in terms of our ghost ability, which is this ability on the back of the mask that we chose at the beginning of part number 1, is that this ability does state when moving through at least 3 spaces in a single action, you may move to any space in the location. I just want to clarify the fact that that literally does mean anywhere inside of the scene. So with this scene currently revealed as we currently have it right now with 4 tiles or 4 location tiles opened up, I could pay for 3 movement on one of these tiles and go like this, 1, 2, 3, and then because I paid 3, or if I have to be paying more, I can literally teleport to anywhere on this entire scene, being that everything is revealed now. So that really does give me a lot of freedom in movement. Now we're not going to do this right now because I have other plans thanks to a lot of feedback you guys have, but I wanted to make that perfectly clear. And the last thing that I want to clarify is in regards to drawing cards up at the beginning of your turn, and this is really important. So if I go into a brand new turn and I have 2 cards in my hand, my maximum hand size when drawing up at the beginning of my turn is 5, including the cards I've already got in my hand, meaning these 2 cards take up already 2 spaces. I can draw a maximum 3 cards from here to go into my next turn. However, at the beginning of your turn, before you draw cards, you are allowed to choose to discard cards in your hand if you want to. So I could toss both of these if I wanted to, and then I could draw 5 cards from the top of the deck. Strategy-wise, wouldn't make too much sense though in this case, because with these 2 cards I have a rapid card, which would and could be a card I could discard if I wasn't looking for contact symbols. But this one right here is a regular action card, but it has an actual ability or action on it. And this might be something that I can slot into the active card area, and as soon as it's here, which you can do for free during your turn, it no longer counts as part of your hand size. Meaning if I went into the next turn with just this setup, I'd actually be able to draw 4 cards. So that's essentially how you draw up at the beginning of your turn. So I think it's time to begin part number 2 officially. Let's talk about the voting that happened in the last video. I left it up to you guys to decide what happens next. We had a choice of trying to go through the tunnel up ahead here if we jump back in our vehicle and head through, which I think would get us out of here, I believe, but who knows what would actually happen. And then on the right side here, it says that we'd actually go after the ghost, but you can see there that it's going to reveal or add 15B, which we know is already in place sitting over here to the right. So essentially it's just us heading over to the ghost or the entity or whatever the heck that thing is on the right hand side that looks like Red Riding Hood floating with a mask, which is very, very creepy, and this individual is screaming help. So the popular vote and decision was to head in that direction. So you guys are either trying to kill me or you got a real interest in trying to figure out what the heck this thing is. And to be totally honest, I'm quite interested as well. So the cool thing is, as I mentioned earlier, with our amazing ability to actually teleport, because we are actually taking on the role of a ghost during this playthrough, I just need to generate some movement and I can jump to the other side of the board in no time. Now, the other thing to take note of is there was this space just below the ghost, and a couple people in the comments mentioned why not teleport right there and then interact with that thing really quick, because the cost of it is going to be halved thanks to this vague recollection card which we got last term, which basically said if there's one individual in this particular space, which there will be because we're playing solo, then every cost is halved, meaning that it's only going to be 1 contact symbol to go ahead and add us 3 more turns into our turn counter, which currently sits at 3. And speaking of the turn counter deck, I want to clear up some confusion from the prior video as well, because I did a slip up during that video in terms of where I grabbed the cards from. During the majority of the video, I was grabbing turn counter cards from the top of the revealed deck, and that's where you're supposed supposed to grab them. And then the last two turn counter cards, I believe, around the 30-minute to 35-minute mark, I think twice in a row there, I grabbed them from the face down pile instead. This didn't have any game impact because whatever abilities are on the current card face up have not activated or done anything for us. So I was really easily able to stage that back again very quickly without any impact. But it was a great catch by you guys, and I'm just going to go ahead and say I was probably tired and just missed it. So where we ended off in the last video was the choice of where we should go next, but I was still in the middle of a turn and I still have these two cards in my hand. So I'm going to go ahead and do exactly what I explained earlier on in this video when I was talking about the corrections for the hand sizes. I'm definitely going to go ahead and put Inner Light in my active area down below because it has a cool ability here that says for 2 contact, I can ignore night in my space until the next turn, and there's night all over the place around my vehicle, and who knows if that will come in handy. I also have this card here. I'm happy to hold on to this because we do need this card or something like it in order to interact with potentially the extra actions space over there for 2, which will be reduced to 1, or if we want to go right for the entity, it's 4 reduced to 2, and this card is perfect for that. So I'm going to hold on to this. We're going to end our turn right here. And another turn counter card is going to be removed, bringing us down to only 2 remaining. So let's go ahead and draw up some cards. I'm going to draw as many as I possibly can. So right now I have 1 in hand, so we can draw a maximum 4. There we go. That'll get us some movement. That's what we're looking for. We need more of that. Hey, we got our 3, just like that. That was super easy. And now we got some options here with some Wrath showing up as well. 1 more card. Nice. That's a good assortment. That should be just enough to do what we need to do to get to the other side of the board and start interacting with some of this stuff. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and spend these 2 cards right here in order to get the 3 resources for false, which is going to allow me to move 3 spaces, 1, 2, and 3. And as soon as I do that, my ghost ability is going to activate, allowing me to go ahead and move to any space in the location. I'm going to shoot myself all the way over here to gain those extra turns, but first we need to interact with it. So that ghost ability is really powerful because that actually saved us 4 in terms of movement points or resources we would have needed to spend to get here. So that was a huge time saver for us. So we got to the other side of the board here, gives us a lot of freedom with movement, and this particular space says, is there anyone else? Show yourself. And there's 2 contact here to actually interact with this. We get to half it because we're the only character on this location tile. So I'm going to play this card right here, which is kind of a wild. I can use it for whichever symbol I want, and I'll use it for contact of 1, and it says right away that we get to go ahead and add 3 turns. So let's add 3 turns to the turn counter deck. And I've gone ahead and added 3 new turn counter cards into this deck right here, which is the one we're pulling cards from to represent time slipping away on us. We had 2 cards left in this deck and we just added 3 more, so now we have a total of 5. Next it says we should go find the secret tile 170 and actually add this into the random encounters deck. That's pretty cool. We're going to shuffle that in. And here is that tile 170. The important thing to note is whenever you pull something out of the secrets deck or the secrets tiles deck, if it doesn't state that you're revealing it or taking a look at it, you're not going to. You're going to shuffle this into the encounters deck, meaning you don't get to reveal this or look at it to know what it is until you run into it. So the turn deck is a little bit more on our side now. We have 5 cards to discard now, so that helps a little bit, but we are down to our last 2 cards right here in hand, and these are both rapid action cards, so I'm not going to be able to put these in the active slots to save them. I have to just keep them in my hand. They're going to clog it up unless I choose to discard them at the beginning of my turn. But to be honest, having 2 Wrath, which is useful for attacks, and having 2 of the contact, which is exactly what I need to interact right here, I don't really want to get rid of either of them, so I think I'm going to end my turn right here. And time continues to slip away on us. We now have 4 cards remaining in the deck. All right, time to draw some cards up and hope for some movement. That's really what we're gunning for here. We can drop to a maximum of 5 cards. So here is the 3rd card in my hand, and there we go. We got the movement that we need. So we could stop here, but I have no idea what I'm about to encounter, and I don't want to short myself on something, especially when it's kind of a mystery to me. So I'm going to keep on drawing cards here. And ooh, look at this. You'll notice this is the first time this action card has come back around through our deck. So we're actually going to get this card. I believe it's the first time, or maybe it's the second time. Maybe it is the second time. And so searchers come back around again, and then you can see only once I've removed it from my deck and put it into my hand does that ability become available for me again, which is allowing me to unflip one of my active cards, something that I haven't needed to do yet. What's really cool though is that this thing here, if I choose to use it to ignore darkness at some point, it basically allows me to ignore darkness for that particular turn. I have to roll the fate die, and it might cause this thing to be flipped, meaning I don't get that ability anymore. But the cool thing is, as a specialist, I can use 2 contact to unflip this card and be able to use it again. So that's a really cool thing to have. So far we've gotten all of this. We got the movement we need. We have lots going on. Let's grab one more and see what it is. Nice, we got ourselves some Wrath. That's gonna really help with combat. It says down below to draw X red cards, roll the fate die 1 to 4. You actually take a pain and flip the card. Now this card that I drew into my hand is actually really cool because we know we can actually put it in an active slot in order to get this ability down here to be able to activate it as an action. And if I was to choose to do this and place it down here, what I can use this for, this draw red X cards, what that stands for is the ability to draw a number of red cards equal to the amount I discard from my active area. So for instance, if I just used it right now, I'd be discarding just 1 red card, and I'd be able to draw that. I put this right here and I draw that many cards from this deck into my hand right now, meaning I just get 1. So it's a 1 for 1, which isn't bad. But if I combo it with a bunch of other active cards in here that are red, so say I had 3 more cards in here filling up my 5 active slots, and then I discarded this card, I would have a total of 4, because you get to include this card in that I could draw from the top of the deck and put into my hand. And that's where the 10 card limit in your hand during a turn is so key, because yes, you can actually bolster your hand to quite a high amount during a full turn in the middle of it. So now that we know how that works, I actually am going to go ahead and put this in this slot, because there's no reason not to. I can still actually get access to the resources when they're in an active slot anyway. Plus I get the ability to use this bottom thing if I need to. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So at this point in time, we are definitely going to spend the 1 right here for the movement point that we needed in order to get closer to this ghost. All right, so let's send ourselves north up to this area right here where we have this ghost waiting for us. We know that this is halved thanks to the vague recollection card we have down here and being the only person on the tile, so it's only going to cost us 2 to interact. So I'm going to quickly go ahead and spend this card right here, throwing it in my discard in order to interact with this. Let's go ahead and grab card 498. Uh-oh, I don't know if I like the look of this, guys. It says, "Follow me." Enough. What is that? It is not a child, it's something horrible. What have you guys done to me? The monstrous shape begins to grow and grows and growing. Place 460. Well, you guys probably just threw me into a trap. Now check this out. We get to place this card over top of this particular location tile that we're currently in. It looks like it's going to change the whole layout of things quite drastically. So this is actually really cool. What I really like with these cards is they're actually on angles as well, which is really interesting and changes the artwork up and doesn't lay perfectly situated on the particular location tile, but really adds a nice dynamic element to the layout. And there's obviously a change of artwork that goes along with that. I am definitely seeing something though that I should notice, and you guys are probably noticing this as well. There are some flowers on this tree, and I specifically remember on the wisdom card from the first part, it mentioned if you see something that actually is the same as a token, which I'm seeing right now, and we're going to go ahead and confirm that by grabbing the token. Yep. That looks like it's exactly the same thing. We get to go ahead and flip this. So I'm going to flip this now. We have gained a key. Now that's huge. And we gained some ether as well. So I'm going to place 1 ether on our player board, and we know that we can use ether in order to buy cards when the game allows us to do so. That's going to be a huge, nice benefit for us later on. But more importantly, we gained what is called in this game as a key, and you actually have a legitimate key that you get to have, and there's a bunch of unique ones here in the prototype. I'll show you the other 3 on camera right now. You collect these as you go through the journey, and there's likely to be probably more than just these 4. These are just prototype, but they look fantastic, and you're going to be grabbing each of these throughout the world as you explore it. So I'm going to take one of these keys and we're going to place it on our player board, and I'm also going to tell you a little bit more about what they do. So what a key will do for you is a key is earned for completing open scenes. So there's these things called open scenes on the world map, which will make a lot more sense when you actually see the world map for the first time. But essentially you can enter those open scenes anytime you want. You're trying to get into those open scenes and actually collect keys within them to use those keys to gain access to what's called a closed scene. And during the game, you're going to be working to try to open up those closed scenes to progress in the game. If you ever die during the game, you don't lose progress based on opening up closed scenes. Any scenes that are closed that you open with a key, they actually stay open. But the whole point, I believe, of each chapter is going to be constantly progressing, finding different keys in different locations, using them together or individually to open up different areas of the game board to progress. Again, this is all a mystery to me as well, but that seems to be the general consensus from the prototype rules. So everything isn't perfect though, because there's some bad stuff going on this tile now as well. It says, what's happening? Why is everything changing? Something is opening, and there are these flowers everywhere. So basically flowers, I guess, are sprouting out all over the place. It says the monstrous shape has become enormous. We hear snapping branches and a low growl. So we're going to be placing now 222. And whenever you see that pink icon down below there with the black dot in the middle, that represents where a particular miniature is technically, or entity is coming into the game world. So we've definitely opened up the door to something here. Now, what have you guys done to me? This is awesome and terrifying all at the same time. We have found what's called a she-wolf, and I thought this was going to be something much smaller, but this is actually one of the larger miniatures within the prototype. We've already encountered an absolute monster of an entity already. This is ironically the one that has been staring us in the face the entire time we've been actually flipping turn counter cards, which I actually did not expect, and thought it would be a little bit simpler jumping into chapter number 3, but apparently we've hit ourselves into something quite large. So first let's talk about this icon up here in the top right hand corner. It's just a simple silver dot, and what it represents is how many actual miniatures or entities are actually being added to the game state. So the she-wolf being a large miniature, there is only one of them. Now there will be random encounters that will have entities that will be about the same size in terms of its tile, but might have multiple dots, meaning that you're bringing multiple enemies into the game board or into that particular scene. The dashed arrow to the right of the title up here says 3 inside, and that's going to trigger for 3 movement of the particular entity anytime you roll the movement die, which looks like this, and you land a dashed arrow. So we might as well talk about the AI, seeing as it comes into play right now. The current face-up turn counter card is this one for me, which is a 4-pipped die face, and you can see that is going to correlate to this one right here, which is a strong bite. So the she-wolf is going to try to bite a character in range 0, which is just happens to be my character who's standing right next to it, to try to give it 3 pain, which is a lot. So we're going to take this marker, and it's going to be placed right on the floor to identify that that's what it's going to do to us at the end of my player turn. So I'm currently still in my player turn because I'm still revealing things, but when I'm done my player turn, the AI or the entity then activates. Once the AI or entity is done, then we move to the turn counter again. We remove a card. We look to see if the symbol has changed. If it has changed, we're going to move this thing to wherever it will do. And the reason for that is it's always going to let you know what the AI is going to do in advance. Now this may sound silly, but it's actually really cool because it gives you a heads up of how you can try to strategically beat it. But it will throw you curveballs on top of that every once in a while, because if it happens to land a question mark at the beginning of a round, then you're going to have no idea what it's going to do when it comes around to your turn. The top left-hand corner of this card is really important because this tells you how we can interact with this particular entity, so we can try to fight it or communicate it. If we get 3 red markers, which represent injuries on this particular card from fighting it, then we can discard this particular she-wolf's current action marker, meaning we can just remove the blue marker that I just placed on, which will stop her from activating after our turn, just for the current turn that we're in. She will be able to activate again on the next turn. So it's just delaying the pain that's coming your way with this particular one. or we can try to communicate with it and basically talk to it. And every single time we do that, we gain one of these markers that represent we're sending words to it, or we're speaking with it. And for solo play, the three-headed individual that's beside the 3 there just represents a times by the number of players. So 3 times 1, because I'm playing solo, means I need to put 3 of these green markers on to successfully communicate with it. If I was playing with 2 players, it would be 6. So this is the type of character that we're probably not going to want to stick around and try to fight or communicate with, because all we're doing is just delaying the pain that's coming our way. We're probably going to want to just take our tail, put it between our legs, and run. I don't know about you guys, but I really don't want to stick around and try to deal with this thing, but there is one thing that's super interesting to note on this she-wolf card. There does seem to be a way to actually interact with this thing and potentially not get totally chewed up and spit out. And it looks like if the entity happens to get a 2-pip symbol on the turn counter when it gets flipped over, then as long as you have 2 words up here denoted by 2 of the green markers up there at a range 0, then she changes to the she-wolf 77 tile, which I have no idea what exactly that does, and it still rolls for movement, but it might make things better, but it could also make things worse. So that's going to be left up for you guys to discover. I'm not going to go down the path of trying to figure that out, because I think that's going to be a major story arc, and especially with this being one of the biggest miniatures in the game. But it is cool to see this thing arrive on the scene, and regardless, it's still going to hit me for a ton of damage as it does a strong bite on me, because I've looked at my cards and there is no way that I can get away from this thing. All I currently have left in my hand is this searcher card and this one here, so I'll probably just be placing this searcher card into my active area so that I can potentially go ahead and use this for movement later on. If I spend 2 of the false, then I can use all of my contact as movement for the turn, which is always handy. And so I'll put that in the active area. So now I have 3 active cards. This I'll keep in my hand for later. I thought I was going to try to put up a fight, but it doesn't seem like the right time to do that. And now it's time for the entity to begin its turn. It's going to activate. It says to roll the movement die, so let's go ahead and do that and see what happens. All right, so it's just a regular move. It's not one with a dashed marker. So all that happens in that situation is this entity is going to move 1 space to the nearest character. I'm already in its space, so then it does the next thing, which we all know. It's going to strong bite me, and it's going to do it for 3 pain, giving me a total of 4. I'm going to go ahead and blame all of you guys for doing that to me. How dare you? We've got 4 pain on me that I'm going to have to find a way to heal myself up now from trying to find this entity. But I will thank you, though, because when we went back, we did actually get to add some more turns into the deck, which is going to help us to escape and I think maybe win the scene. I'm not sure. But also we got to add into the random encounters deck 170 tile, which maybe someday we'll actually run into. But seeing this miniature on the board is really cool, and also being able to go over how that particular card works as well was really handy. So I do thank you guys for that, but I don't necessarily thank you for the pain. Time to see what this she-wolf is doing next. Oh, it's a 3. That's actually going to keep it in roughly the same AI format as the last turn. The she-wolf definitely doesn't like me and is going to try to strong bite me again in her upcoming turn. And I know exactly what I want to do, and that is get the heck out of here. I'm heading for the tunnel. I'm done with this. So we've got 1 card in hand here. Let's drop some cards and hope for some movement. So there is 1. That's not going to be enough. We need more than that. That is not going to help either. Oh no, this is not looking good. Uh-oh, we're running into some trouble here. This could be bad. I may need to be, I'm going to have to be really creative with how I get myself out of this jam. What's going to really save me here is the fact that I have this searcher card in my active slot, so I can go ahead and spend 2 of the false symbol, like these 2 right here, and now I can use green contact resources for movement. Thank goodness. So I can go ahead now and I can choose to use rapid progression, which I would have loved to actually use to try to use the ether that's in my hand here to actually buy cards right now. It would have been fantastic, but we're more concerned with getting the heck out of here before we get hit with too much more damage. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use rapid progression, and I'll use, I guess I should probably use the searcher card that I just used so I can keep the inner light with me, seeing as I can still manipulate the darkness. So I'm going to go ahead and discard these in order to get the 3 that I need for movement in order to teleport myself to an area where I can get the heck out of here and into the tunnel. I really don't think I've ever been happier to run away from something in a board game than this situation. So we've got 3 movement, but we know where it goes, so we can teleport wherever we want after that. So we're gonna go ahead and go 1, 2, 3, and we're gonna teleport ourselves right to here, which is the idea of getting the heck out of here in our vehicle. I'm gonna go ahead now, and I have to spend 2 more of the contact in order to get out of here. So I'm gonna now use my active card Inner Light in order to say, see you later, She-Wolf. I'm out of here, and we're gonna go ahead and reveal 359. Wow, check out the card in the middle of the shot here. This is what I've just revealed. It says, oh no, wait, where are the keys? Did we lose them? Has anyone taken them? Do you have a key? Yes, yes, I certainly do. And if yes, when all characters are on the A2 tile, which I currently am, we can leave to the forest. We get to leave the forest, which is awesome, and I'm assuming that's considered a success. Whew. And then if no, the card does not start, you must find the key. So either way, even if I'd wanted to go to the tunnel from the beginning of this particular part, I still would have been forced to go over there and find this entity. But man, I am lucky we have that ghost ability to get away from this thing in a quick and timely fashion. When you exit a scene, you're gonna go ahead and take all cards that are in your hand and you're gonna shuffle them back into your deck right here. So I'm gonna go ahead off camera and be shuffling those back in, but the discard pile does not get shuffled back into this chest area worth of cards, and your active cards stay in the active card slot. Now we're going to go to that prologue card where it showed the success and failure options and see what we gain for winning this particular scene. So we have successfully completed the prologue Somewhere on the Road. We're going to gain 1 ether for each character. So I'm going to put this on my player board, giving me a total of 2 ether now. And we're going to go ahead and find card 477.
The first omen. Again, these flowers appear whenever a fragment of the world begins to change. When something from outside the world is trying to get here. What's on the other side? I hope that we will find out in time, or maybe it is better not to know.
So we have discovered the first part of the Etherfields secret, so we're going to keep this card next to our character board as this is being labeled as a secret within the game. The next thing we're going to do is take a look on the right hand side. It says start chapter 3 and take number 29 and 587 intro tiles, and then each character may buy new cards. So 29 and 587 are the library and the mill, and you can see the library is underground. It's missing the R in that word, but I'm sure that'll be corrected later on. This is a prototype, but this one over here is a swamp. So we have 2 options for you guys, and I'm gonna again set up a vote as to which of these 2 areas we should head to next. So in the top right hand corner, you'll see an eye show up. If you click on that eye inside the video, you'll be able to vote for which of these 2 you'd like to see me progress into. But before we actually make that decision, maybe you want to see where we currently are on the world map in relation to these 2 different spaces, and each of which seem to be giving us a key. And here is an overarching look at the world map for Etherfields. And again, this isn't the entirety of the world map. And when you begin your campaign for the first time, you may start on a single tile and be exploring out from there. But remember, what you're seeing here on these tiles can change, and these tiles can be switched out based on what happens within the game world. So as you progress through the story, you can't expect even the game board itself to actually stay the same, similar to how the scenes operated with changes as we went through them. So where exactly is the library and the mill? So on the right hand side of the map is the underground area, and this is where the library is. But we have to go to this particular scene right here in order to get into the library. So we can choose to progress from where we currently stand all the way through to this particular scene, and we can choose the route in which we go. We have to follow the yellow arrows throughout the world as well. Or we can try to go to the swamp and the mill. And on the left-hand side here, we have the swamp with the scene we could head to in order to interact with the mill to go after a key there. So do we head to the mill on the left-hand side in the swamp area, or do we head to the library over here on the right in the underground area? Let me know up in the voting option in the top right or in the comments below. Now, underneath our miniature that shows up on the awakening spot on the world map, there's some text here that says we can change items, heal all of our damage essentially, and we can go ahead and reshuffle the chest and change masks. So we've already gone ahead and reshuffled the chest. Changing of the mask could be a cool idea as well. So let me know in the comments below, should we stick with the ghost mask? It seems to be a pretty good mask. Or do you guys want to see what the other ability is on the other mask that we chose? And we can make a decision on whether we want to use wisdom, for instance. But I truly believe that Ghost is actually working out quite great for us, especially in a solo capacity. So it might be a good one to stick with. And then again, we'll heal away all of our wounds, which we had 4 of them. So they will all go away. And now we get to go ahead and buy some cards. So time to move on to buying new cards. Now this is the exciting part of the deck building element of the game, where at certain points within the game, sometimes after a scene, sometimes during a scene, you're going to be able to go ahead and buy cards from this action pool, which is quite large even in the prototype. I pulled 3 cards as you're instructed to do when buying new cards, and you can spend as much ether as you currently have to buy as many cards as you want out of these 3, of course. So as I have right here in front of me, I have 3 cards, and they just happen to be 1 ether each, which is fantastic because that means I can pick up 2 of them. So I'm going to let you guys help me decide on which 2 I should pick up. Now, in terms of comparing the top, they're all for 2 resources each, so that's fantastic. Down at the very bottom, we have some special abilities here. These are actually all ones that can become active cards in my deck, which is very cool. This one has me using 6 of the yellow, and from now on, range of attacks of all characters is increased to the number of cards that I discard of yellow from the active area. And when I do this, once I pay for this 6 resource, I put a universal marker on this card, and this card, when it's sitting in my active area, always gives me this passive ability. So that's really, really cool. Once you pay it once, you have it for as long as you have that card in your active area. This one over here is a simple discard that we know about now. So we can discard a number of green cards from our active area to draw that number of cards into our hands. Also very handy, very similar to the red one that we have. And then we have analysis. This is when you pay 4 yellow, and from now on, entities suffer a wound. Well, that's actually really good. An extra one from an extra 1 injury, I should say, more from each attack, dealing at least 2. So we need to deal at least 2 in order to get the extra 1. And we mark this as well once we actually get it, and then we discard when the scene ends. And that's going to conclude part number 2 of Etherfields. I cannot wait to hear from you guys to find out whether you prefer the mill or the library for where we should go next, as well as letting me know in the comments below which of the 2 cards we should purchase during this buying new cards step. Super excited to see where this playthrough continues to take us, and hope this is helping you make an informed decision. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, keep on rolling solo.